Marvel's first family has had a rough go of it at the cinemas. We've had a movie in 1994 that didn't get off the ground. We had the 2000s Fantastic Four and the sequel, The Rise of Silver Surfer, and then we won't talk about 2015's Fantastic Four because that's an abomination. But the Fantastic Four First Steps is Marvel Studios' first crack at it. So let's find out if the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Fantastic Four First Steps. So what does that mean for all of us moviegoers? What does that mean for Marvel Studios, for people that are going out to go see the Fantastic Four First Steps in the theaters on July 25th? It means hope. Yes, it means hope for a better future for these characters, for the Fantastic Four, for Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm. It means that there's a fight against a character that we haven't seen, also that's been kind of misused in film history, in Galactus, where his first appearance was as a cloud, which was awful. And so the third time, it really is the charm here with Galactus. And it's also about family and not the Vin Diesel kind. We're not talking about Fast and Furious here. We're talking about the hopes and dreams of Marvel Studios and the fans of these characters, because Marvel has wanted to have these characters in their roster for as long as they've been a film studio, but of course Fox had the rights to them. So this film, let's kick right into the good, because there's a lot of good here. It stars Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, Joseph Quinn, Ralph Ineson, and Julia Garner here. And that's really the main cast here. There's some other roles that are played by smaller parts that are played by characters out there, but that's really what you get of all the characters in this film. And that's kind of refreshing to have this sort of big picture film that has this small picture cast. There are other actors, but chiefly this is a story about the first family of Marvel. You're going in to see it, to see them, and that's really one of the highlights of the film. At the center of it all is the relationship between these four characters, between Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm. They're really the only superheroes in this version of Earth that are in the film. It's different. It's a different Earth than the one we know from the MCU, so you have to go through that, and they're basically celebrities in their own time, and it's kind of crazy to see. The other good thing about this is that we don't have to go through the backstory. Like Spider-Man Homecoming and Superman, the newest one, audiences know what the backstory of these characters are. We know that they go into space, that there's like a solar storm or whatever, and they get powers because of it. That's really all you need to know, and they don't go into that as super deeply. It doesn't waste 20 minutes of the film trying to go through, and you're thrown right into the fire of they're the Fantastic Four now, they're here to save the Earth, they're here to protect the Earth, and they're the only superheroes on this Earth. You do see them save the day from lower level baddies like Mole Man, who's a highlight of the film. Hilarious performance by Paul Walter Hauser here. But Reed is always keeping a watchful eye on the outer space and the space around them, because he knows that something else could be out there and should be out there that is a threat to this alternate 1960s version of Earth. Another highlight is the dynamic between Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby. It's just off the charts. Like, to use the term electric would be not doing it justice here. It feels like they're actually married here. That's the kind of chemistry you get between these two characters. And Pascal in particular gives a sort of brainiac, sort of smart guy performance that we haven't really seen in a superhero film lately. You have Tony Stark, he's smart. Bruce Banner, he's smart. Peter Parker, he's smart. Pascal takes a different turn than those performances, giving a new life to what should really feel like a sort of tired out character. It's not this sort of fury or whatever, but he internalizes and imbues Reed Richards with this sort of fury and fervor that you can feel jumping off of his performance off the screen. He's the smartest guy on the planet, he knows it, but he's never feeling the need to let everybody else know that he's the smartest guy out there, even in a crisis. People just turn to him in this huge crisis that, Galactus and the Herald of Galactus coming and saying, hey, we're going to destroy your planet. Everyone just looks to him for the plan, and it affects his performance, and it affects him as Reed, and you can see it in his face and in his actions in the film. Vanessa Kirby is equally smart, sexy, stunning, and just all-around magnanimous as Sue Storm here. She really is the linchpin of this film, and everything surrounds her, and you can feel Sue Storm is one of 5 Marvel characters out there. If they do a big event series like Civil War II or whatever, Doctor Strange, the Hulk, Thor, Sue Storm, they have to send her away because she's so powerful. You can feel that power in the film. She is a powerful character here, and of all the previous incarnations, you might like Jessica Alba's performance, but she just tops and does laps around everyone else that has played this character, and she makes it her own. Normally, this is where I would go into the bad of a film, because obviously the title is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but we're going to actually go through more good here, because there is more good to the Fantastic Four First Steps. Galactus. We've had this previous character on screen, and they've all sucked. They've all been horrific. This time around, it's not a gigantic cloud, it's Ralph Ineson, and his voice, as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh wow, that is just Galactus through and through. It's what you picture as Galactus, is his voice. It's crazy. Marvel's casting has been very, very on point for a lot of stuff like this. He gives that oomph to a massive celestial body that eats planets. It's a voice that eats planets. That's what I can describe it as here. He's terrifying, and he gets every bit of terror in that title of the Eater of Worlds. That's what you feel with Galactus. Shallowball, the Silver Surfer, whatever you want to call her, she's this, universe's version of the Silver Surfer, the Herald of Galactus. She is badass. Just gets some really great moments in the middle of the film, including surfing on lava. Her dynamic with Johnny Storm is, it's cool, it's fun. We'll get into some of the problems with Johnny's script and the performance there, but their dynamic is really cool, and it's what drives the film along. The Silver Surfer is a fan favorite character for a reason, and she gets to knock out it. Julia Garner really knocks it out of the park here. The look of the Surfer is great. The effects, so you can see the reflective of other characters, of Johnny's flames, all of that. It adds up to a very, very, very awesome performance as Shallowball. One of the characters here that might not get mentioned as much as other people in other reviews is actually not a character. It's Michael Giacchino's score, which is just, it touches on everything that you'd want. It's touching, it's triumphant, it's emotional, it's hilarious. It's basically everything that Matt Shakman, the director, and the rest of the crew want you to feel. You feel out of Giacchino's score, and I don't normally go out and listen to the scores of superhero films like this. I do listen to like John Carpenter's scores while I'm on Spotify while I'm working or whatever, but I feel like I might actually go back and check this one out, because it is just such a powerful and great score of the film that it really feels like it's another character in the film. Lastly, the visual aesthetic of the 60s is just, it makes the film feel special. It makes it feel like a comic book. And I think that might be what Marvel has been missing, with just a bit of flair to it and making it so that everything is sort of visually different. Like, you go to a comic book store and you look at comics and you say, oh, well, that actually looks different than that, and that looks different than that. Everything was kind of feeling a little bit same looking for a while. This film definitely does not look the same as any other Marvel film out there, and it's something that's out of the ordinary that can really kick the genre back into gear. Is starting off with great visuals, and it has great visuals. The CG here, there's some scenes where you can tell it looks a little hokey. It looks a little like they're standing behind in front of a green screen, but you're going to get that with anything like this. But a lot of the time, the effects are awesome. Sue Storm's powers look really cool. Johnny Storm looks great. Just all around, it's a great visual looking film. And now for the ugly of the Fantastic Four First Steps. Like I was mentioning at the top, the script does have some issues. There are 4 people that worked on it, and normally when you have that many people working on a script, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. It means that there were previous drafts that didn't have stuff that needed to get added, stuff like that. It is easily the weakest part of the film. The script here, it takes some sort of tired, worn out, well-used superhero tropes and giant monster cliches, and it uses them again, and some of the humor in the film doesn't land as well as you'd think. And there's also just kind of Johnny Storm in particular, he feels a little bit off, and I wouldn't go as far as to say that Joseph Quinn is miscast in the film. He does as good as he can with the sort of material that's given, but Ben Grimm and Johnny definitely do take a backseat to Reed and Sue, which makes sense, but the B-plots that they get are pretty thin overall. They feel like they're just kind of there as B-plots to get them more screen time rather than anything else. The script is really what keeps this one from being sort of an all-timer movie. I love Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Thunderbolts was the most recent one. That one was great. Avengers Endgame, Iron Man, Thor Ragnarok. It doesn't reach like that Guardians of the Galaxy, that tier of film. It's just below, because the script, it just kind of holds it back. Outside of that, there's a little bit less action that you would expect from a Marvel movie, but that feels more like a conscious choice, because the action here is going up against a massive celestial being that eats planets whole. So, you know, there's not a whole lot for them to fight against other than the Silver Surfer and Galactus. The other thing, the last thing that I'll go through with the ugly section here, is that the whole line of "it's clobbering time" is played for humor in the film, but then when you finally get the line through all of the jokey lines of Johnny poking and prodding the thing of "it's clobbering time," the actual line is not mixed very well, and you don't really hear it in the context of what they're saying it, and so that was kind of disappointing, that there's this big build up to the line, and then the line is kind of really low in the mix. So yeah, that's not a big thing, but it's something to keep in mind. Overall, the visuals, the score, the performances, especially from Pascal and Vanessa Kirby, are what stand out in the Fantastic Four First Steps. They all combine and they mix in with a subpar script that brings in tired tropes to hinder this one from being something that would be truly special with a better script. What it ends up as is something that Marvel can hang their hat on, though. You can see the steps that they're taking here for the future of Marvel with these characters. They are important. They are amazingly important to what's coming for Marvel. And this is the best adaptation we've ever had of the Fantastic Four. So you can hang your hat on that as well if you're a fan of those characters. We've never had a movie that's this good, featuring Reed Richards, Johnny Storm, Sue Storm, and Ben Grimm. And hopefully going forward they can be tentpoles that the MCU can build upon. It's a visual feast with really great looking effects, the 60s aesthetic that is just to die for, and enough emotion to keep you invested all the way through. The first family of Marvel is in great hands, and this is a fantastic first step.